Ladies and gentlemen, you're tuned to Community Radio Networks. And we are now going to get you all the information that you need to take on the day today. It is Tuesday, the 23rd of January. We'll tell you some of the stories that happened from the annals of history on this day. We'll also tell you what's going on in this small world of yours. We'll have the financial news, all that information coming up for you right here on Community Radio Networks. Let's start with the world news. This is Community Radio Networks, the world news read by Shabnam Matgil. Voters in New Hampshire will decide whether to hand Donald Trump a glide path to the Republican presidential nomination or bolster rival Nikki Haley's long-shot bid to topple him today in a pivotal primary election. The former U.S. president and the former South Carolina governor made their final pitches to voters in what became a two-person race after Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, once seen as the party's best bet to take on Trump, dropped out and endorsed the New York businessman. Tuesday's primary today in New Hampshire's former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley's best and perhaps last chance to change the direction of the Republican presidential primary. Former President Trump scored an easy victory in last week's Iowa caucuses, winning more than 50% of the vote. If the polls are right, he's on track to win again by a large number in New Hampshire, which could knock Haley out of the race and mean he's the only major candidate left running for the Republican nomination for president. The stakes are extremely high. If Haley can come close to Trump in the primary, then she will be able to more credibly claim that this is a competitive two-person race. If Trump wins by a big margin, however, it's hard to see anyone stopping him from being the Republican candidate for president. There are some reasons to be hopeful for Haley. She has gained momentum in New Hampshire over the past 4 months, rising from single digits to nearly 40% support today in the polling average. And the 6 registered voters of tiny Dixville Notch in New Hampshire all cast their ballots for Nikki Haley at midnight today, giving her a clean sweep over former President Trump and all other candidates. This resort town was the first place in the nation to vote in the 2024 primaries. The voters outnumbered more than 10-1 by reporters from every corner of the globe, not to mention by a pile of freshly baked chocolate chip cookies. Dixville Notch has a tradition of first in the nation voting that dates back to 1960, with the results announced just a few minutes after midnight. A rally held by former President Trump ahead of the New Hampshire primary was disrupted last night by protesters who repeatedly interrupted his speech to bring up fossil fuels. New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu blasted former President Trump for having no energy ahead of the Granite State's primaries today. He has endorsed Nikki Haley and told CNN's Jake Tapper that the former UN ambassador has the momentum to perform well in New Hampshire's primary, where she's the only remaining major challenger to Trump. The New Hampshire Attorney General's office is investigating an apparent mass robocall that used a fake Joe Biden voice to urge New Hampshire Democrats not to vote for the president in today's Democratic primary in the state. The robocall, which features what appears to be either a spliced-up version of Joe Biden's words or an AI creation, was first reported by NBC News. Donald Trump may be set to testify in writer E. Jean Carroll's latest civil defamation trial in Manhattan federal court tomorrow, following a 2-day postponement triggered by COVID-19 concerns. 24 Israeli soldiers were killed in Israel, and that the worst day of losses in Gaza, as it claimed to have encircled southern Gaza's main city in a major ground assault. Palestinian militants carried out the deadliest single attack on Israel's forces since the Hamas reign that triggered the war, killing 24 soldiers, a significant setback today that could add to the mounting calls for a ceasefire. Hours later, the military announced that ground forces had encircled the southern city of Khan Yunis, Gaza's second largest, that marked a major advance, but it was unclear how much closer it would bring Israel to defeating Hamas or freeing Israeli hostages. two Central War aims that have proved increasingly elusive what impact it would have on ceasefire talks that appear to be gathering pace. Egypt and Qatar, which have brokered past agreement between Israel and Hamas, were developing a multi-stage proposal to try to bridge the gaps. Families of the hostages have called for Israel to reach a deal with Hamas, saying time is running out to bring their relatives home alive. A total of 25,490 Palestinians have been killed and over 63,300 have been injured in Israeli strikes on Gaza since the 7th of October. Israel has given Hamas a proposal through Qatari and Egyptian mediators that includes up to 2 months of a pause in fighting as part of a multi-phase deal that would include the release of all remaining hostages held in Gaza. The UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees said that 570,000 people in Gaza face catastrophic hunger. The Palestinian Ministry of Education said that over 4,500 students have been killed and over 8,100 injured since the start of the Israeli aggression on the 7th of October. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov met with counterparts from Iran, Turkey and Lebanon ahead of a UN Security Council meeting on the burgeoning turmoil in the Middle East. And the Houthi rebels are acting independently in their decision to hamper Red Sea trade in support of the Palestinian people, said a senior commander with Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Greek Prime Minister spoke about the importance of protecting navigational rights and freedom in the Red Sea. And New Zealand would deploy a 6-member defense team to the Middle East as part of an international coalition to uphold maritime security in the Red Sea, according to Prime Minister Christopher Luxon. And Mohammed Ali Al-Houthi, a senior Houthi official, has said the Western allies are supporting destruction in Gaza as they did during 8 years of bombardment in Houthi-controlled Yemen. The U.S. and Britain launched new strikes on Yemen's Houthis, saying their second round of joint military action against the fighter group was in response to continued attacks on Red Sea shipping. U.S. and U.K. launched more airstrikes against the Houthis in Yemen last night, the latest salvo in an effort to stop the Iran-backed group's attacks on ships in the Red Sea. One of the 2 Navy SEALs presumed dead after being lost at sea during a nighttime raid near Somalia was identified as a North Texan. On the night of the 11th of January, Special Warfare Operator 2nd Class Nathan Gage Ingram, who's 27 years old, was on the waters. He was in the process of seizing a vessel that was illegally transporting advanced lethal aid from Iran. The aid was meant to resupply the Houthi forces in Yemen, as per a statement by the Navy. Gage Ingram was from Trophy Club, Texas, just outside Roanoke in Denton County. The search and rescue efforts to find those 2 Navy Special Op members ends in tragedy. The toll of the death felt in Texas as one of the dead is Navy Special Warfare Operator 2nd Class Nathan Gage Ingram. The nominations for the 96th Academy Awards were announced just a little while ago, with Oppenheimer sweeping 13 nods, surprising no one. The atomic blockbuster was followed by Poor Things with 11 nominations, while Killers of the Flower Moon and Barbie also picked up several nods. We do have Barbie, Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon among the films that scored nods for the Best Picture when the Oscar nominations were announced this morning. Dexter Scott King, the youngest son of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., has died, according to a statement from his family in the King Center, confirming in a statement that the 62-year-old civil rights activist died yesterday after a battle with prostate cancer. The 3rd child of Dr. and Mrs. Coretta Scott King was married to Lee Weber King since 2013. 8 people were found shot and killed in 3 different locations over 2 days in Joliet, and the suspect in the slings was also found dead by a suspected suicide 1,200 miles away. The apparent self-inflicted gunshot death of 23-year-old Romeo Nance in Texas followed a manhunt by multiple law enforcement agencies. Hawaii Governor Josh Green used his annual State of the State address to lead lawmakers and guests in a moment of silence for victims of the Lahaina wildfire and to propose aggressive steps to shift more vacation rentals into residential use to meet both Maui and the state's acute housing needs. Those gathered for the speech delivered a standing ovation to 2 Maui firefighters who traveled from Maui for the governor's talk, which focused heavily on helping Maui recover from August's deadly wildfires. One of the more high-profile North Texas defendants in the U.S. Capitol riot is standing trial in Washington today, where a judge will decide the case. Local actor Luke Coffey was seen in a video on the 6th of January in 21 at the front of a line of people trying to forcibly get into the U.S. Capitol building. He was holding someone's crutch over his head, and the FBI says he was using that crutch on police who were guarding the entrance. A divided Supreme Court allowed Border Patrol agents to resume cutting for now razor wire that Texas installed along a stretch of the U.S.-Mexico border that is at the center of an escalating standoff between the Biden administration and the state over immigration enforcement. The 5-4 vote clears the way for Border Patrol agents to cut or clear out concertina wire that Texas has put along the banks of the Rio Grande to deter migrants from entering the U.S. illegally. More than 1 million people have been allowed to enter the U.S. under Biden administration programs based on the Immigration Parole Authority that Congress is considering restricting at the request of Republican lawmakers. Mexico's latest deals on immigration include a plan to ramp up deportation flights to locations such as Guatemala, Venezuela, and Honduras, with the promise that those countries will receive development assistance. Among next steps decided in bilateral migration talks held in Washington earlier this month are plans for the U.S. and Mexico to share information when they believe it's warranted to sanction firms transporting migrants. Venezuela's Attorney General said 14 arrest warrants were issued against civilians and former military personnel for allegedly conspiring against the government of President Nicolas Maduro. And Ecuador's police said they've captured the leader of the Colombian armed group Oliver Sinisterra, and that Ecuadorian authorities will return him to Colombia. News of the capture comes amid a military offensive launched by Ecuador's government to combat criminal gangs. And the Senate this week is awaiting news of a border deal that has been subject to high-level negotiations for months. Leaders hope to begin consideration of the impending agreement in the coming days, even though its chances of clearing the House look bleak. Senate negotiators are laboring since yesterday to win wide support for a deal on border policy as they entered what could be a pivotal stretch for a painstakingly negotiated compromise that could open the door for Republican voters to replenish U.S. wartime aid for Ukraine. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin will head the meeting of the contact group for the defense of Ukraine today, together with Charles Brown, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the U.S., but will participate in it from home. For the first time since Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin established the international group to support Ukraine, the U.S. will host the monthly gathering of about 50 countries out of money, unable to send the ammunition and missiles that Ukraine needs to fend off Russia's invasion. Russia's foreign minister clashed with the U.S. and Ukraine supporters at a UN meeting yesterday, where Moscow ruled out any peace plan backed by Kyiv and the West, and China warned that further global chaos could impact the slowing global economy. Sergei Lavrov, Russia's top diplomat, claimed that Ukrainian forces have been a complete failure on the battlefield and are incapable of defeating or weakening Russia. North Korea's new arsenal of ballistic missiles is set for their first real-world test on the battlefield in Ukraine, but based on the success of U.S. interceptor systems in that conflict, Kim Jong-un may be worried. The Russian armed forces launched 41 missiles against Ukraine overnight, of which 21 were shot down by Ukraine's air defense. Several people have been killed in Ukraine after Russia fired these missiles across the country, with explosions reported from the capital of Kyiv to the eastern city of Kharkiv. Poland scrambled military aircrafts in response to Russia's morning missile strike on Ukraine. Ukrainian President Zelensky has been delighted with the results of recently appointed Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk's visit to Ukraine. Donald Tusk, the new Polish Prime Minister, is facing an opposition at home that is trying to handicap his new administration, pledged his country's support for Ukraine in his inaugural visit to Kyiv. And Ukraine's border checkpoints are returning to operation at full capacity after the lifting of the blockade on truck traffic, with about 5,000 lorries having already left for Poland. Russia is considering taking action against those in the country who speak out against its invasion of Ukraine. The legislation would allow the state the power to seize the property of those who are convicted of defamation of the armed forces or who are publicly calling for actions that would undermine Russia's security. European Union countries, including Germany and France, are increasingly blaming each other for failing to provide Ukraine with enough weapons, threatening to chip away at the bloc's unity as Kyiv enters a crucial phase in the war. European Union leaders are ready to play hardball with Hungary. Prime Minister Viktor Orban should continue to block a 50 billion euro support package for Ukraine at an extraordinary summit next week. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban said he has sent a letter inviting his Swedish counterpart, Ulf Kristersson, to discuss Sweden's NATO membership bid. Sweden edged nearer to joining NATO after Turkey indicated it's moving towards approving the Nordic nations' accession, and Hungary sought talks on that matter. Britain's upper house voted to delay a controversial plan to send migrants to Rwanda in a decision likely to anger right-wing members of the Conservative Party and threaten Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's vow to have planes leaving for the African nation by spring. The House of Lords voted 214 to 171 for a motion from Labour peer Peter Goldsmith, chairman of the Chamber's International Agreements Committee, to delay that treaty. Rishi Sunak said Jeremy Hunt will still be the UK's Chancellor of the Exchequer at the general election expected in the second half of the year, in an apparent attempt to quash rumours he could be moved aside in favour of a close ally of the Prime Minister. Hundreds of thousands of Germans flooded the streets over the weekend, including in front of the National Parliament, to protest against far-right extremism and the rise of anti-immigration AfD party. And Iran has executed a man accused of killing a security officer in protests that followed the death in custody of Mahsa Amini in September of 2022. Mohammad Gobadaloo, who was 23 years old, was hanged early this morning. And that, according to the judiciary's Mizan news agency, reporting that he was charged with spreading corruption on earth, a crime punishable by death, for allegedly killing a policeman in anti-government protests that gripped Iran after the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini. Liberia's new president, Joseph Boakai, has been declared perfectly fine by his doctors. The 79-year-old failed to reach the end of his inauguration speech and had to be helped away from the podium during his swearing-in ceremony yesterday. His office said he had suffered heat exhaustion but had now resumed his normal activities. Spain's Supreme Court ruled that authorities acted illegally when they sent unaccompanied child migrants back to Morocco after thousands of people forced their way from the North African country onto Spanish soil in 21. Hundreds of unaccompanied minors were among a surge of around 10,000 people who tried to enter a Spanish enclave in North Africa by scaling a border fence or swimming around it, and many were believed to be sub-Saharan migrants seeking a better life in Europe. Morocco later took back most of the migrants. The World Health Organization chief fears plans for a global pandemic preparedness agreement will fall apart amid wrangling and disinformation, warning that future generations may not forgive us. Shaken by the COVID-19 pandemic, the World Health Organization's 194 member states decided more than 2 years ago to start negotiating an international accord aimed at ensuring countries are better equipped to deal with the next health catastrophe. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the world news on Community Radio Networks. Rescuers raced to find dozens of people still trapped after a landslide struck a remote and mountainous part of southwestern China, killing 12 people. The pre-dawn landslide buried 18 homes and sparked the evacuation of more than 200 people when it struck in Zhejiang County in Yunnan province. And Chinese President Xi Jinping has ordered all-out rescue efforts. Landslides are very common in Yunnan, a far-flung and largely impoverished region of China with steep mountain ranges but against the Himalayan plateau. Former Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison has announced he's going to retire from politics next month, ending a prolonged period of speculation over his future following an election defeat in 2022. The 55-year-old said he would be resigning from Parliament by the end of February to take on new challenges in the global corporate sector and spend more time with his family. Novak Djokovic maintained his dominance over Taylor Fritz, overcoming a significant challenge to secure a 7-6, 4-6, 6-2, 6-3 victory over the 12th-seeded American in the scorching conditions of today's Australian Open. And this win propelled the 36-year-old defending champion into a record-extending 48th Grand Slam semi-final. And despite Djokovic having triumphed in all 8 of their previous encounters, including a challenging 5-set match at Melbourne Park in 21 and a commanding victory at the U.S. Coco Gauff's streak of 19 service holds was snapped. Her run of 11 consecutive sets won ended. She committed 3 times as many unforced errors as winners. Japan's lunar lander, which touched down on the moon's surface on the 19th of this month, but had to quickly power down after its solar panels failed to generate energy, may still have some life left in it. The successful landing of the smart lander for investigating the moon made Japan only the 5th nation to achieve such a feat, and after the soft landing, it is believed that the probe tilted unexpectedly on its side. In recent years, Canada has emerged as a premier destination for international students, including India's, offering quality education and promising post-graduation opportunities. However, the rapid increase in the number of foreign students has led to significant challenges, including a housing crisis and concerns about the quality of education provided by some institutions. The Sri Lankan Navy has arrested 6 Indian fishermen and seized their trawlers for allegedly poaching in the island's nation's waters. In the 4th such incident this month, the fishermen were arrested and their 2 trawlers were seized yesterday north of the Delft island in Jaffna. French President Emmanuel Macron will be the chief guest at the 76th Republic Day celebrations. A 95-member marching contingent, 33-member band contingent from France will take part in the Republic Day parade. Notably, this is the 6th time a French leader will be the chief guest at the Republic Day celebrations in Delhi. This year, India will be celebrating the 25th anniversary of the India-France Strategic Partnership. And following the inauguration of the Ram Temple by Prime Minister Modi, India celebrates its biggest festival, Republic Day. A fleet of 46 aircrafts, including cutting-edge fighters, transport planes, helicopters, and a heritage aircraft, will grace the skies during the Republic Day flypast. And this impressive display highlights the Air Force's prowess and diversity. To ensure seamless execution, these aircrafts will be strategically stationed at 6 bases, each playing a crucial role in orchestrating synchronized movements. And this awe-inspiring aerial showcase symbolizes the nation's strength and unity on this significant day. From Odisha to Ladakh, different regions are all set to showcase their heritage and culture through their tableaus at the Republic Day parade. The theme this year is India, the mother of democracy. And on the 26th, tableaus of 16 states and union territories and 9 ministries will move down Kartavya Path at Rangshala in southwest Delhi. These are getting their final touches. And Parole University has announced that 13 of its NCC members have been selected to participate in the esteemed Republic Day parade set to take place in New Delhi on the 26th. And these dedicated cadets, chosen through a rigorous selection process, showcase exemplary leadership, commitment, and a strong sense of duty. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi today lashed out at Assam's Chief Minister Hemant Biswa Sarma's intimidation tactics after the state police stopped his Bharat Jodo Nyaya Yatra from entering Guwahati. Rahul Gandhi, whose Padyatra is currently in Assam, said that the march will only benefit from Sarma's tactics. West Bengal Chief Minister Mamta Banerjee today targeted the BJP-ruled central government for not keeping their promise of investigating the disappearance of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. It's India's bad luck that even after so many years we do not have Netaji's death date. We do not know what happened to him. It's a shame, she said, on Netaji's 127th birth anniversary. A total of 1,640 cases of COVID-19 subvariant JN1 have been detected in the country so far, with Madhya Pradesh becoming the latest state to record its presence. After creating a storm on social media yesterday, the Pakistan Football Federation Normalization Committee hinted at a U-turn, having earned earlier what they were exploring to be a neutral venue. The PFF-NC said last night that Pakistan's 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifier against Jordan on the 21st of March could yet be played at Islamabad's Jinnah Stadium, whose readiness for the game it had put in question. Caretaker Information Minister Murtaza Solanki said today that international observers and journalists would visit Pakistan to monitor and cover the February 8th general elections. With the general elections a little over 2 weeks away, the Election Commission of Pakistan released the list of contesting candidates and directed that all development funds pertaining to local government institutions be frozen with immediate effect till the results of the February 8th polls were announced. As former Prime Minister Imran Khan asked his party to engage in electioneering with full force. He questioned the transparency of the February 8th elections and said the preferential treatment meted out to a single political party had turned these polls into the mother of all selections. And he made these remarks during the routine interaction with reporters after the hearing of the Cypher case being held at Adiala jail. Former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif urged the people of Mansehra to vote for his PMLN so that he could overhaul the economy and put the country back on the path to development. He was addressing an election gathering in the city from where he is running for a National Assembly seat and described himself as the champion of development and prosperity. The Supreme Court today reserved its verdict on a petition filed by former Islamabad High Court senior judge Shaukat Aziz Siddiqui against his removal. And Baloch protesters who had been camped outside Islamabad's National Press Club since December called off their sit-in this morning. The announcement came a day after the NPC penned a letter to the Islamabad police requesting the removal of the Baloch rights camp. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have in the world news for you today. We'll be thanking all our supporters of Community Radio Networks and getting you your financial news and plenty more information. That's all headed your way right here on Community Radio Networks. We will go ahead and get you now your financial news right here on Community Radio Networks. I do want to thank those that make Community Radio Networks possible. Huge thanks going out to Discount Power, to HoustonEB5.com, to the Ahluwalia Law Offices, to the Wyndham Hotel, particularly their banquet halls in Irving, to Digital X-Force, headed by Lalit Ahluwalia, to Kinza Law, to Sri Vimal, Mystic Mandala, and Flashbrush Productions. Huge thanks going out to all of them who make this Community Radio Networks possible. Let's get you your foreign currency exchange rates before we get you all the financial news. We have the Indian rupee at 83.14, Pakistani rupee at 279.62, Bangladeshi taka at 109.72, Sri Lankan rupee 319.86, the Nepalese rupee at 133.09, the British pound at 0.79, the euro at 0.92, the Canadian dollar 1.35, the Australian dollar 1.52. Mexican peso 17.29, Chinese yuan 7.15. The cost to borrow the yuan in Hong Kong has risen to the highest in almost 2 years, signaling its scarcity in the city and reminding traders of a currency strengthening tactic once employed by Beijing. So-called overnight HIBOR, a gauge measuring the cost for Hong Kong banks to borrow the yuan from each other, climbed to a level unseen since April 2022 today. 1 and 3 month tenors also climbed to the highest level there since late of last year. And that is the Chinese yuan. The Japanese yen is at 148.27. It has performed worse than any of its major peers so far this year, renewing speculation that Japanese authorities will be drawn in to defend the currency. Russian ruble at 89.15, the Thai baht at 35.74, and the Turkish lira at 30.28. Stocks kept to small ranges ahead of a slew of company results that should offer insights of the state of the global economy. Europe's stock 600 index slipped about 0.3%, boosted by commodity companies. U.S. equity futures were flat after another record close yesterday. Netflix Inc., Johnson & Johnson, and Procter & Gamble Company will report quarterly results today, and results from Tesla Inc. and Intel Corporation are due later this week. The S&P 500 closed at a record high yesterday. Its second straight record close after Friday saw the index break a 2-year streak without a record high. Bitcoin has fallen over 20% since the January 11th launch of the first exchange-traded funds investing directly in the token, as speculators became more cautious about the potential impact of the product. The digital asset spiked to 49,021 on the day the ETFs from issuers, including BlackRock Inc. and Fidelity Investments, went live. Bitcoin traded at 38,860 this morning, a 20.7% drop from intraday peak yesterday. Oil prices eased in early trade today as anxiety of the global demand outlook for oil offset geopolitical tensions in the Middle East and supply worries following an attack on a Russian fuel export terminal over the weekend. Brent crude futures fell 14 cents or 0.2% to 79.29. General Electric Company predicts profit this quarter will fall short of Wall Street's expectations as the manufacturer continues to see a disparity between its growing aerospace operations and a recovering energy business. Adjusted earnings will be 60 to 65 cents a share, said GE today, in a statement that also detailed fourth quarter results that missed the 70-cent average of analyst estimates compiled by Bloomberg. NVIDIA is the AI king. Its share of the global AI chip market is estimated at anywhere between 70 to 90%. Its high-powered graphics processors, which are perfect for training AI models and putting them to work, are in such demand that getting them is a task all its own. Truist Financial Corporation, the fifth third bank core, tapped the U.S. investment-grade market, growing the pile of domestic bank debt that has been issued so far this month to $40 billion as Wall Street firms emerge from fourth quarter earnings. In October of 22, Kroger had agreed to buy rival Albertsons in a $25 billion deal to combine the two supermarket chains. While federal regulators are still reviewing the legality of this deal, many shoppers are wondering what changes may be in store if the merger goes through. Kroger says above all else, its combination with Albertsons will mean lower prices and more choices for more customers. Johnson & Johnson has reported its fourth fourth quarter profit and revenue just now above Wall Street expectations, helped by strong demand for blockbuster psoriasis treatment Stelara. The drug and medical device maker posted an adjusted profit of $2.29 per share, narrowly beating expectations of $2.28 per share. Quarterly revenue of $21.40 billion exceeded the estimates of $21.01. For decades, Sports Illustrated was one of the jewels of the Time Life publishing crown, and the magazine, which once gave away free football-shaped phones for new subscribers, had numerous spin-offs and international editions. In an announcement, though, the Arena Group, which had a license to operate Sports Illustrated under an agreement with owner Authentic Brands, said it was terminating the licensing agreement and laying off most of the staff. Zion's Bancorp shares rose after the company gave a forecast for 2024 net interest income that was higher than some analysts are estimating for the year. The Salt Lake City-based bank said it expects the difference between what banks make from lending and what they pay for deposits to be slightly decreasing this year. Women keep reaching new highs in America's boardroom, but they're still a decade away from reaching parity. While women occupied a record 33.5% of S&P 500 companies' board seats at the end of last year, the ratio was 50-50 or more at just 29 companies. Despite a year full of doubt and worry, Americans are feeling stronger about the economy as the recession that was predicted to happen last year never really showed its face. And as shopping malls across America struggle to attract customers, fill floor space, and ultimately stay open, strip malls are apparently seeing a surge in value and popularity, and it's basically thanks to the COVID-19 pandemic. A powerful new documentary about the life and work of Christopher Reeve has premiered to tears and applause at this year's Sundance Film Festival, met with a rousing standing ovation. Superman, the Christopher Reeve story, traces the career and activism of the Superman actor before and after the 1995 accident that paralyzed him from the neck down. And the film features an intimate collection of home video footage and new interviews with his 3 children and the actors who knew him. He died in 2004 at the age of 52, narrates a lot of films, his words transplanted from the 2 audiobook versions of his memories. And investors are swarming back into the blank check firm seeking to take Donald Trump's social media company public as the former president cements his place as the Republican frontrunner for the party's 2024 nomination. Digital World Acquisition Corporation has surged nearly 200% over a 6-day winning streak as shares power to the highest level since May 22. Yesterday's 88% rally after Trump's rival Ron DeSantis quit the primary race marked the special purpose acquisition company's best day since its meme stock heyday in October 21. Florida is planning to borrow as much as $3.8 billion to infuse a state fund that reimburses property insurers for losses when homes are damaged or destroyed by hurricanes. A Florida bill backed by the state's chief financial officer would create a $5 million fund to help pay for former President Trump's mounting legal fees. And with Groundhog Day approaching on the 2nd of February in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, PETA, are making another effort to try and get Phil retired. In previous years, PETA has offered to replace Punxsutawney Phil with a robotic groundhog that would give accurate weather forecasts. An 18-year staple of a California community is being forced to shutter its business, but not for lack of profits. Rather, the Oakland location of the fast food franchise In-N-Out's Burger is succumbing to safety concerns due to rampant crime in the area. Robberies increased by 38% in the area from 22 to 23. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has joined 15 other Republican governors in asking the Biden administration to back off its plan for the adoption of electric vehicles. The administration wants 2/3 of cars sold by 2032 to be electric. You may have set a New Year's resolution to exercise more and get in shape, which is awesome. But when you're not hitting the gym trying to get your body right, how about doing some exercise to get your brain right? Unfortunately, a new study has found that Texans in particular are among the worst states in the nation for taking care of our brains. Life Extension looked to rank all 50 states for good brain health based on a variety of metrics, and through their studies found that Texas ranked 43 in the U.S. for brain health. and the matrix included, and where Texas ranked across the nation adults who exercise, adults who eat fruit and vegetables every day, adults who don't get enough sleep, meditation interest score, adults who read literature, babies breastfed at 12 months, and children 5 or younger whose parents read to them every day. There's a new baby giraffe in Fort Worth. The Fort Worth Zoo published a video on social media showing a new baby giraffe. Baby Corbell was born on New Year's Day. And Corbell and Mama Cory are said to be bonding well. Corbell is also meeting his fellow giraffes at the Fort Worth Zoo herd. France's powerful farming union threatened a week or more of protest action as it was poised to meet with Prime Minister Gabriel Attal. The unions have demanded concrete government action to address their grievances, which they say include excessive financial charges and environmental protection rules. On the Bank of Japan's slightly more hawkish tone provided just a brief boost to the yen, with analysts saying the timing of a policy shift is still uncertain. If you order a box of frozen Kobe beef croquettes from Asaya, a family-run butcher shop in Takasago City in western Japan's Hyogo Prefecture, it'll take another 43 years before you receive your order. That's right, 43 years. It was founded in 1926, and Asaya sold meat products from Hyogo Prefecture, Kobe beef included, for decades before adding beef croquettes to the shelf in the years following World War II. But it wasn't until the early 2000s that these deep-fried potato and beef dumplings became an internet sensation, resulting in the ridiculously long wait that buyers now face. The value of China's stock market has never been this far behind that of the U.S. as the losses continue to pile up in a seemingly relentlessly equity rout. And the market capitalization of the U.S. stock market is now 38 trillion greater than that of Hong Kong and China put together. Xi Jinping is weighing an emergency intervention to shore up China's crumbling stock market after it slumped to a 5-year low. And there is no denying now that China's economy, the world's second largest, is in deep crisis, grew 5.2% last year, slightly above the official target, but the recovery was far shakier than many analysts expected, weighed down by the mounting local government debt and deepening property crisis. India's stock market capitalization has overtaken Hong Kong's for the first time in the South Asian nation's growth prospects and policy reforms. This makes it a darling investor while global capital pours out of China. The Indian economy is poised to touch $5 trillion next financial year, 24-25, and capitalize to double to $10 trillion by the end of this decade. This according to Union Petroleum Minister Hardeep Puri. At present, the Indian economy is estimated to be about $3.7 trillion. We are the 5th largest economy and the 4th largest stock market. A Chicago-based tech company is mourning its leader after a tragic incident. Sanjay Shah, the CEO and founder of software company Vistex, died on the 18th of this month from injuries sustained after a freak accident during a company party in India. He was 56 years old, and during a celebration for Vistex's 25th anniversary, he and the company's president, Vishwanath Raju Datla, were suspended in an iron cage more than 20 feet in the air. Being lowered from the cage onto the dais, this broke, and one of the 2 wires attached to the cage as it snapped caused both men to fall 15 feet and land onto the concrete stage in front of the party's reported 700 guests. He died of his injuries at the hospital following the accident. According to the Times of India, 52-year-old Datla, who sustained a severe head injury, remains in critical condition. The Vistex flag at the company's Hoffman Estates office now sits at half-mast, and officials are investigating the accident per a CBS affiliate in India. Vistex is a revenue management software with 20 global offices and more than 2,000 employees, and works with clients such as GM, Barilla, and Bayer. And it was Sanjay Shah who founded the company in 1999. Hailed from a Chicago suburb, and company president Ruja Datla, the president of the company. Samsung has inaugurated its first online to offline lifestyle store in India at Geo World Plaza Mall, located in the Bandra Kurla complex. The Samsung BKC store will showcase top-of-the-line premium products, and the company has revealed that the new Samsung BKC store will showcase Samsung's widest premium portfolio, ranging from smartphones to televisions, refrigerators, washing machines, and other products, leveraging the power of Samsung's AI ecosystem. Indian equity benchmark indices faced a significant setback today as the BSE Sensex fell over 1,000 points, relinquishing the 71,000 level, while the Nifty also dropped 1.5% and traded below the 21,300 mark. High net worth individuals and UHNIs are not only turning to Indian startups to gain early access to promising ventures, but they wield a substantial financial clout to offer a lifeline to startups amid a funding winter. Over 9,000 tech HNIs and UHNIs are low-risk traders who prefer to invest in pre-seed and Series A rounds, while nearly 2,500 of them are high-risk takers participating in seed and pre-series rounds. Baiju's parent company Think and Learn has submitted its audited financials for the fiscal year 22 to the Registrar of Companies, and the operating revenue for 22 was reported at 5,014 crore rupees, with losses reaching over 8,000 crore rupees. Baiju, once counted among the world's most valuable startups, is seeking to raise funds at a discount of more than 90% from its previous round to alleviate its financial problems. Nova Agritech, a player in the agri-input manufacturing sector specializing in soil health management, crop nutrition and crop protection products, has recently launched its IPO. The issue, valued at 144 crore rupees, consists of a fresh equity issue of 112 crore rupees and an offer for sale of 77.58 lakh shares. And the IPO subscription window is currently open and will close on the 25th of this month. Railway stocks experienced a significant decline today, with some stocks falling as much as 16%, and this drop came after a strong rally leading up to the Union Budget 2024. After 2 years of deadlock in negotiations, Japan's Sony Corporation called off its proposed $10 billion merger between its India unit and Z Entertainment Enterprises. Sony Corporation's 62-page merger termination notice came just when Z had requested it to extend the deal deadline. Z Entertainment Enterprises tumbled as much as 10% after the cancellation of this planned $10 billion merger with Sony Group Corporation in India. Ayodhya is undergoing a significant transformation into a global spiritual tourism hub, with the Ram Mandir as its main attraction, and the town is projected to attract 5 crore tourists annually once the 85,000 crore rupee makeover is completed. The construction of the new Ram temple cost around 1,800 crore rupees and can serve as a model for infrastructure-driven tourism growth. Prime Minister Modi's post on Ram Lala crossed 1 crore likes on Instagram this morning. The post, which was made on the occasion of the Prana Pratishtha consecration ceremony yesterday, shows Prime Minister Modi standing before the new statue of Ram Lala with folded hands. Divine moments from Ayodhya. Every Indian will remember this day. Delhi High Court has suspended the running of a website for preying on the public's religious beliefs and deceiving them by allegedly promoting itself as the official platform for delivery of prasad from the consecration of Ram Lala's idol at the Sri Ram temple in Ayodhya. And the Finance Ministry in New Delhi has notified 4 services: bookkeeping, accounting, taxation and financial crime compliance, which can be provided through units in IFSC or Gift City, with tax benefits available to the entities. IL and FS has approached the National Company Law Tribunal in Mumbai to recover funds from its associates, New Tirupur Area Development Corporation, a joint venture between the infrastructure company and the Tamil Nadu government. Delhi's Indira Gandhi International Airport to New Noida Airport in just 80 minutes. The upcoming Noida Airport, also commonly called the Jewar Airport, is said to have direct connectivity with Delhi's Indira Gandhi International Airport, as the Uttar Pradesh government has approved a 16,000 crore rupee rapid rail corridor. And we do have all IT service companies are mandated working out of office for at least 2 to 3 days a week. Only some are really enforcing it. Firms like Infosys, HCL, and Cognizant are still not strict about it. Employees say managers are focusing more on the deliverables and on upskilling than on asking their team to work from the office premises. Mumbai Festival 2024, which kicked off 2 days ago, is a celebration spanning 9 days, taking center stage across diverse locations in the city. And the World Bank has started marketing more loans to Pakistan with a formal $425 million upfront offer to finance microfinance banks and social sector projects, including the Benazir Income Support Program. Pakistan and China renewed their commitment for the success of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor as the two sides expressed their desire for enhanced cooperation in the areas of information technology, economy, agriculture, and human resource development. Pakistan's exports of non-textile value products saw a contraction in the first half of 23-24 from a year ago. And shares at the Pakistan Stock Exchange traded in the green today, gaining more than 500 points amid reports about the government's plan to settle down circular debt. Borrowing by the private sector has gone down by 86.3%. And during the first half of this current fiscal year. And caretaker Chief Minister Punjab Mohsin Naqvi has emerged as the frontrunner to become the new chairman of the Pakistan Cricket Board's Interim Management Committee. The 19th Dawn Education Expo opens in Karachi on the 27th and 28th at the Pearl Continental Hotel. It has a representation from over 80 global universities. And the universities participating in this Education Expo include those from Australia, Austria, Canada, France, Germany, Hungary, Ireland, Japan, Malaysia, North America, Pakistan, UK, Turkey, the UAE, and the USA. University representatives will also provide one-on-one sessions with potential students to discuss their concerns as well as queries. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have in the financial news for you. And in just a very short while, I'll get you some stories from the annals of history that happened on today's date, the 23rd of January. Stay with me. Let's get you some stories from the annals of history that happened on today's date is the 23rd of January. And let's tell you what else happened during that time. We do have some supporters of community radio networks that we would like to thank. I have huge thanks going out to Discount Power, to Houston EB5, to the Aluwalia Law Offices, to the Wyndham Hotel in Irving, to Digital X-Force, Kinza Law, Sri Vimal, Mystic Mandala, as well as Flashbrush Productions for their support of community radio networks. All right, now here are some of the stories that happened, and we are going way back to 1556 on today's date. An earthquake in Shaanxi, China kills an estimated 830,000 people. Counting casualties is often imprecise after large-scale disaster, especially prior to the 20th century, but this disaster is still considered the deadliest of all time. The quake struck in late evening with aftershocks continuing through the following morning. Later, scientific investigation revealed that the magnitude of the quake was approximately 8.0 to 8.3, which isn't close to the strongest tremor on record. However, the quake struck in the middle of a densely populated area with poorly constructed buildings and homes, resulting in a horrific death toll. The epicenter of the earthquake was in the Hui River Valley in the Shaanxi province, near the cities of Huaxian, Weinan, and Huayan. And every single building and home collapsed, killing more than half the residents of the city, a number estimated in the tens of thousands. And even if the number of deaths caused by this Shaanxi earthquake has been overestimated slightly, it would still rank as the worst disaster in history by a considerable margin. And at a graduation ceremony at a church in Geneva and New York on the 23rd of January in 1849, Geneva Medical College bestows a medical degree upon Elizabeth Blackwell, the first woman in the United States to receive one. It happened in the year 1849. Despite the near-uniform opposition of her fellow students and medical professionals, Blackwell pursued her calling with an iron will and dedicated her life to treating the sick and furthering the cause of women in medicine. Her family was remarkable by any standard. Her father was a staunch abolitionist, and both her brother and his wife were active in the women's suffrage movement. Another sister-in-law was the first female minister to be ordained in a mainstream Protestant denomination, and Elizabeth's younger sister Emily also studied medicine. She was a very gifted student, and Elizabeth felt compelled to become a doctor after a conversation with a dying friend who told her that her ordeal had been that much worse because her physicians were all men. Elizabeth's family approved of her ambition, but the rest of society still found the idea of female doctors laughable. It was quite literally a joke even to the men who accepted her to the Geneva Medical College. The question of whether or not to accept a woman was put up to a vote to the students, who voted in favor as a practical joke. Nevertheless, Blackwell received her acceptance letter and started school in 1847. And she received at her graduation ceremony her medical degree on today's date, the 23rd of January in 1849. Faced with sexist discrimination at every turn, she not only received her degree and practiced medicine, but contributed greatly to the education of the first generation of female doctors in America. The profession remained notoriously male for many, many years, but the progress that started with her continues. In 2017, for the first time ever, a majority of medical students in the United States were women. John Moses Browning, sometimes referred to as the father of modern firearms, is born in Utah on today's date in 1855, and many of the guns manufactured by companies whose names evoke the history of the American West, Winchester, Colt, Remington, and Savage, were actually based on John Browning's designs. The son of a talented gunsmith, he began experimenting with his own gun designs as a young man. When he was 24 years old, he received his first patent for a rifle that Winchester manufactured as its single-shot model, 1885. And he began experimenting with his idea in 1889. 3 years later, he received a patent for the first crude, fully automatic weapon that captured the gases at the muzzle and used them to power a mechanism that automatically reloaded the next bullet. In subsequent years, he refined his automatic weapon design, and when U.S. soldiers went to Europe during World War I, many of them carried Browning automatic rifles, as well as Browning's deadly machine guns. During a career spanning more than 5 decades, his guns went from being the classic weapons of the American West to deadly tools of World War carnage. Amazingly, since his death in 1926, there have been no further fundamental changes in the modern firearm industry. It was John Moses Browning, who we refer to as the father of modern firearms, who was born in Utah on today's date, the 23rd of January in 1855. And on 23rd of January 1920, the Dutch government refuses demands by the Allies for the extradition of Willem II, the former Kaiser of Germany, who had been living in exile in the Netherlands since 1918. Things were looking dismal for the Central Powers on all fronts of the Great War, and the Kaiser was at German army headquarters in the Belgian resort town of Spa when news reached him in quick succession of a labor unrest in Berlin, a mutiny within the Imperial Navy, and what looked like the beginning of full-fledged revolution in Germany. And from every direction, it seemed, came calls for peace, reform, and the removal of the Kaiser. He was told that the German General Staff would make a unified, orderly march home to Germany when the war ended, but it would not defend him against his internal opponents. Faced with lack of support, he agreed to abdicate his throne, and shortly after that, the last of the powerful Hohenzollern monarchs traveled from Spa to Holland, never to return to German soil. On today's date in 1920, the Dutch government refuses the demands by the Allies for his extradition. The former Kaiser of Germany, who had been living in exile in the Netherlands. Charles Lindbergh, a national hero since his non-stop solo flight across the Atlantic, testifies before the House Foreign Affairs Committee on the Lend-Lease policy and suggests that the U.S. negotiate a neutrality pact with Hitler. It happened on today's date, the 23rd of January in 1941. He had made headlines again, but this time because of the kidnapping of his 2-year-old son. The baby was later found dead, and the man convicted of the crime was executed. To flee unwanted publicity, he and his wife, daughter of the U.S. ambassador, moved to Europe, and he became familiar with German advances in aviation and warned his U.S. counterparts of Germany's growing air superiority. But Lindbergh also became enamored of much of the German national revitalization he encountered and allowed himself to be decorated by Hitler's government, which drew tremendous criticism back home. Upon his return to the States, he agitated for neutrality with Germany and testified before Congress in opposition to the Lend-Lease policy, which offered cash and military aid to countries friendly to the U.S. in their war effort against the Axis powers. And it was on this date, in 1941, this national hero, since his non-stop solo flight across the Atlantic, testified before the House Foreign Affairs Committee on this Lend-Lease policy and suggests that the U.S. negotiate that neutrality pact with Hitler. On the 23rd of January in 1957, machines at the Wham-O toy company roll out the first batch of their aerodynamic plastic discs, now known to millions of fans all over the world as the Frisbees. The story of the Frisbee began in Bridgeport, Connecticut, where William Frisbee opened the Frisbee Pie Company. Students from nearby universities would throw the empty pie tins to each other, yelling Frisbee as they let go. In 1948, Walter Frederick Morrison and his partner invented a plastic version of the disc called the Flying Saucer. And that could fly further and more accurately than the tin pie plates. And so it was the toy company Wham-O that produced the first Frisbees on today's date in 1957. And a year later, after the toy's first release, Wham-O, the company, began such top sellers as the Hula Hoop, the Super Ball, and the Water Wiggle, changed its name to the Frisbee Disc, misspelling the name of the historic pie company. Today, at least 60 manufacturers produce the flying disc, generally made out of plastic and measuring roughly 20 to 25 centimeters in diameter, with a curved lip The official Frisbee is owned by Mattel toy manufacturers who bought the toy from Wham-O in 1994. On the 23rd of January in 1968, the USS Pablo, a Navy intelligence vessel, is engaged in a routine surveillance of the North Korean coast when it is intercepted by North Korean patrol boats. According to U.S. reports, the Pablo was in international waters almost 16 miles from shore, but the North Koreans turned their guns on the lightly armed vessel and demanded its surrender. The Americans attempted to escape and the North Koreans opened fire, wounding the commander and 2 others. With the capture inevitable, the Americans stalled for time, destroying the classified information aboard while taking further fire. Several more crew members were wounded. Finally, the Pablo was boarded and taken. There, the 83-man crew was bound and blindfolded and transported to Pyongyang, where they were charged with spying within North Korea's 12-mile territorial limit and imprisoned. It was the biggest crisis in 2 years of increased tensions and minor skirmishes between the U.S. and North Korea. The U.S. maintained that the Pablo had been in international waters and demanded the release of the captive sailors. With the Tet Offensive raging 2,000 miles to the south of Vietnam, President Lyndon Johnson ordered no direct retaliation, but the U.S. began a military buildup in the area. At first, the captured crew of the Pablo resisted demands. They signed false confessions, famously raising their middle fingers at the camera and telling the North Koreans it was the Hawaiian good luck sign. Once the North Koreans learned the truth, they punished the prisoners with beatings, cold temperatures, and sleep deprivation. According to a lawsuit, some of the Pablo crew would later file against the North Korean government, and eventually North Korean authorities coerced a confession and apology out of Pablo commander, in which he stated, "I will never again be a party to any disgraceful act of aggression of this type." The rest of the crew also signed a confession under threat of torture. So that happened on the USS Pablo, the Navy intelligence vessel, on today's date in 1968, as it is engaged in a routine surveillance of the North Korean coast when it is intercepted by North Korean patrol boats. And on the 23rd of January in 1984, Hulk Hogan becomes the first wrestler to escape the camel clutch, the signature move of reigning World Wrestling Federation champion Iron Sheik, as he defeats Sheik to win his first WWF title at the Madison Square Garden in New York City. Only a month earlier, the Iron Sheik had defeated the celebrated Bob Backlund in a controversial match, ending Backlund's championship reign of almost 6 years. And here was Hulk Hogan now beating Iron Sheik to win the first WWF title, the World Wrestling Federation title, on today's date in 1984. Darrell Lunsford, a county constable in Garrison, Texas, is killed after pulling over a traffic violator. His murder was remarkable because it was captured on a camera that was set up in his patrol vehicle. The videotape evidence led to the conviction of the 3 men who beat, kicked, and stabbed the officer to death along the East Texas Highway. He had pulled over a vehicle and turned on the video camera installed on his front dashboard. He appeared to have asked the 3 men in the car to open the trunk. However, when the men got out of the car, they tackled and stabbed him in the neck before driving off. Later that night, it was Ronaldo Villarreal who was picked up by officers as he was walking a few miles from the murder site. His brother and another man were also arrested a short time later. At the trial of the 3 men, the jury watched the videotape and all were convicted. The videotaped murder of Lunsford was ushered in a new era. Video cameras have become ubiquitous in police cars and have proven to be a potent law enforcement tool. Happened for the first time on today's date in 1991 in Texas. And on the 23rd of January in 1992, President George H.W. Bush hosts a White House reception for the U.S. women's soccer team in honor of their recent World Cup win. On this occasion, President Bush displayed the wry, folksy sense of humor that endeared him to his supporters. He began by welcoming the crowd who gathered to support a team that he said reflected a favorite American pastime. It's known as winning. He emphasized the importance of an American team finally achieving first-class status in a global sport that had previously been dominated by teams from other parts of the world. The 1992 U.S. women's soccer team not only won the first FIFA Women's Championship, but the first ever soccer championship for the U.S. And at the reception, he repeated a quote that sport was the first great separator of the sexes, referring to the less than successful record of the U.S. men's soccer team. He quipped, "For the sake of the male ego, I hope the men start catching up." On the 23rd of January in 1997, the day after her unanimous confirmation by the U.S. Senate, it is Madeleine Albright who is sworn in as America's first female Secretary of State by Vice President Al Gore at the White House. As head of the U.S. State Department, she was the highest-ranking female official in U.S. history, a distinction that led some to declare that the class ceiling preventing the ascension of women in government had been lifted. And she was appointed. Of course, it was in the year 2005 that Condoleezza Rice was sworn in by President George W. Bush as the nation's second female Secretary of State. After stepping down from her post, Madeleine Albright returned to teaching at Georgetown, accepted several board positions, and became chair of the National Democratic Institute for International Affairs. She died at the age of 84 in 22. Just a month before her death, she spoke out on the impending Russian invasion of Ukraine, writing in a New York Times op-ed, Russian President Putin would be making a historic mistake by invading Ukraine. But we are remembering her today, as it was on today's date in the year 1997, a day after her unanimous confirmation by the U.S. Senate that she is sworn in as America's first female Secretary of State by Vice President Al Gore at the White House. Ladies and gentlemen, these were some of the stories from the annals of history that happened on today's date, which is the 23rd of January. And we do have a dense fog advisory that is under effect right now. Temperatures are cold with readings hovering near 40. We got a bunch of rain coming late this morning through the afternoon, and then another decent shot late Friday evening also. Waking up to this fog and some rain shower activity in the west as the morning wears on. A large area of rain will develop 150 miles to our southwest and slowly creep across the area this afternoon. We do have our first full moon is coming up for you on the 25th of this month. One of the main planets, among 9 planets there, the moon, is there coming up as a full moon, going to take place at this time on the 25th of this month. We also have the Raja Yoga meditation course continuing on Monday, yesterday, and there'll be one tomorrow as well as Friday, brought to you by the Brahma Kumaris Meditation Center on Josie Lane in Farmers Branch, and you can register at their website, which is bkrymeditation.us. Also, we have the movie releasing, huge Bollywood movie that is releasing on the 25th. That's the day after tomorrow. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a Fighter, starring Hrithik Roshan, Deepika Padukone, Anil Kapoor, Karan Singh Grover, and Akshay Oberoi in those lead roles. And this is, excuse me, very, very specially for India's Republic Day. And India's Republic Day is being celebrated here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area by the India Association of North Texas on Saturday the 27th, starting at 11 o'clock at the SLPS Community Center on Britain Road. This is a free event for all of you, inviting you all to come watch and participate in India Day, the 47th India Day, being brought to you by the India Association of North Texas, celebrating 75 years of India becoming a republic. We also have Sanskriti RKT 2024 happening from the 26th to the 28th, a cultural extravaganza by J.K. Yogs, Bal Mukund and youth clubs, who calling on kids and youth to take part in this on-stage singing contest, dance contest, drawing, coloring, chalk art, rangoli, sudoku, chess, carom contest, Sanskriti quiz, math quiz, IQ quiz, yoga, shloka, recitation, as well as instrument contests, prepared and impromptu speeches, presentation contests, fancy dress, poster making, a lot happening. 26th, 27th, and 28th at the Radha Krishna Temple in Allen. Also would like to let all of you know that there is a 2-day holistic festival of life, a 2-day New Year market being held at the Plano Nature and Retreat Center on the 27th and 28th, presented by Human Embrace and Mystic Mandala in association with Crystal Corner, Plano. This 2-day holistic market. Fundraising, dinner, and entertainment that is brought to you every year by Helping Hearts, Caring Souls. And this is happening on the 17th of February at 7 o'clock at the Crystal Banquet Hall on Independence Parkway in Plano. And the entertainment that evening is going to be performed by Saima Jahan, which is Madame Noor Jahan's granddaughter. She pays tribute to Madame Noor Jahan. It's happening on the 17th of February. And if you need more information, please call Anjum Anwar. 469-556-6475. 469-556-6475 for this fundraiser. The Spirit of Innovation Awards, the technology round will be next month, and the business plan round in April, brought to you by the U.S.-India Chamber of Commerce. They would also like for you to mark the 1st of March for the 8th Annual Women's Conference. This annual Women's Conference provides professional and entrepreneurial women with a platform to be inspired, to network, and to grow. More information is available at usicoc.org. usicoc.org, and it's happening on the 1st of March. 2nd of March, a English family play called Maya, written and directed by Sumit Rekhi, and it'll be performed at the NAC Theatre in Frisco. On Sunday, the 3rd of March, Jubin Notial live in concert, brought to you by 360 Shows, Diamond Productions, and Universal Entertainment at the Curtis Culwell Center, starting at 6:30. For more information, you can call Muhammad Abbas. His number is 214-679-6818. 214-679-6818. Tickets are also available at tinyurl.com/Jubin Dallas. Do mark the 23rd of March from 11 to 6 for the 14th Annual Festival of Colors, the Holy Mela at the South Fork Ranch, and get more information at dallasfestivalofcolors.com. Texas Women's Society is presenting the McKinney Asian Festival on the 23rd of March at Dr. Glenn Mitchell Memorial Park on Louisiana Street in McKinney. And the 20th of April is the date for this year's annual Pratham Gala. And we are thrilled to invite you to the 2024 Pratham Dallas-Fort Worth Gala, an extraordinary evening dedicated to empowering children and young people in India to transform their lives and communities. Saturday, the 20th of April at the Omni Frisco Hotel. And this year's gala theme is Changing Lives, Transforming Communities. And will highlight the remarkable impact of Pratham's work in expanding access to quality learning opportunities. So do mark the 20th of April and join us for an unforgettable evening of exquisite dining, inspiring company, and a cause that truly matters. As we get information about more events, we'll have them for you right here on Community Radio Networks. But of course, Community Radio Networks is not possible without the support of Mr. Malik Jamal from Discount Power, and you can get more information at discountpowertx.com. Also, Mr. Pradeep Kumar with Houston EB5, and you can check out more details of his projects at HoustonEB5.com. The Ahluwalia Law Offices and attorney Pallavi Ahluwalia there to help you with all your legal cases at mydesilawyer.com. Also, the banquet halls of the Wyndham Hotel in Irving on Airport Freeway for your next event. Digital X-Force led by Lalit Ahluwalia, and they provide our cyber report to us every week. We bring it to you every Saturday right here on Community Radio Networks. KinzaLaw.com, and attorney Kimberly Kinza can help you with your next immigration case. Shri Vimal from their showroom on 183 in MacArthur, as well as their restaurant called Eggaholic, which is on MacArthur and 635. I have huge thanks going out to Mystic Mandala, to Ananda and Vijay for their support of Community Radio Networks, and to Priya with Flashbrush Productions. Please remember that none of these are possible here on community radio networks without the support of the ones I just mentioned above. Thank you very much. That's all the information that I have for you today to take on the day. And it is Tuesday, the 23rd of January, right here on Community Radio Networks. For those of you who'd like to reach me directly, my number is 214-675-1754. 214-675-1754.